Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crossover Podcast. My name is David Shynock. It's a blessing to have you back. Happy Thanksgiving. So when this episode goes out, it will likely be Wednesday, that'll be the 25th, just before the holiday. I don't want to release it on Thanksgiving because that's a day that I want everybody to make sure they spend time with family, just take a step back, relax, and enjoy life. Try and avoid political conversations and go from there. So the episode that just went out on Monday was the interview that I had with Charles, a big man on campus, one of the more well-received videos that I've had on the channel for a bit. And I absolutely love the guy. Taking a look back on it, his work ethic is just insane. And it's an inspiration to not only myself, but to many people that I know that have commented and have left their footprint on social media about it. To transition into today's topics, today is a solo episode, just me, as most Thursday episodes will be until LCS likely starts in mid-January. And then from there, I'm not sure what I want to do in terms of the LCS predictions, following the amateur scene, stuff like that. Like, I want the LCS to be a very heavy point of content for this channel at some point in time, but I also still want to keep golf, other sports, and just esports in general and gaming still involved. Which, speaking of that, one random side note, I announced on Twitter about 2 weeks ago, I have never played a GTA game before and just started playing GTA 5. I'm kind of sad that I missed out on it in its prime, but at the same sense, the one key takeaway that I get from this is that game would be so much better if you could play it co-op in certain story modes. So I understand you do want to play it single player. So there's certain things that you don't want to make two person, but I wish you had the ability to, like, if it wove in and out of one person and two person campaign missions, that would kind of be nice, because then, you could do some stuff on your own, but then you join up with your friend and then you get to play as one character or the other, play through the mission, do different things. I feel like that would add a fun element to it, that you could still do everything single player. It's still an AI in the same way that the game works now. I'm only just through the beginning of meeting, is it Frank? I forget, the hillbilly. I'm just through his scene. So I did the first heist, and it would have been nice Franklin is the gangster that's starting to get involved with this. The first heist, when it was Franklin and it was Franklin and Michael, if you could go through that in the same way that now you kind of take over one while the other person does another thing, and then you do the getaway on your own, but the AI is still there. It'd be nice if you could control one individual person throughout the entirety of the heist, make it feel a little bit more realistic, even though that would be dull at certain points in time. I still feel like it would be fun. I don't know. I'm hoping that comes in time. I know GTA Online is big. I haven't really checked that out yet because I don't want to, not that I don't want to waste time with it, but it's like, I don't know. I kind of feel like the game is past its prime, and I'd rather invest that time into League of Legends and other esports, which over the weekend we had the Esports Awards, which for the most part, in my opinion, properly reflected everything that has happened this year in gaming. I think League of Legends was definitely the number one esport with everything going on. They were still able to pull off a world championship, multiple leagues across multiple regions in a way that Overwatch, Call of Duty League, they fail to capture the scale that League of Legends has. So I'm very happy with that. Happy with Riot as the developer as well, because not only League, but Valorant being introduced as well. And even though that is in the very early stages, it still does speak to Riot's ability to attract all these major organizations, who most of which were endemic to League of Legends to begin with. But teams like Sentinels, like Envy, like NRG, like, there's so many. Andbox. I mean, you could just go through the list. It's actually impressive how good of a scene they've already developed. And apologies for the sirens in the background. Welcome to New York City. It really is impressive how much they've done with it. So I respect that. The one result that I cannot accept for the life of me is G2 winning Esports Organization of the Year. Here's the issue. Obviously, they're putting a lot of weight on League of Legends, and I get that because it arguably is the biggest esport in the world, and I would agree with that sentiment. However, when you just compare last year to this year alone, okay, G2 as an organization peaked in 2019 without question. That's not saying that 2020 was a bad year, but it's hard to come off back-to-back LEC titles where they were dominant. Even though they went to 5-game series, for the most part, like they were a lot more dominant in 2019 than they were this year. They went to a World's Finals. That right there is already better than this year. So you have to look outside of that. Counter-Strike, really not much has gone on. Rocket League, do they even have a team anymore? I think they might have disbanded in 2019. I'm not sure. They do have an incredible Valorant team. So I will give them that. They're I would argue, the number one Valorant team in the world. Until proven otherwise. That's kind of the general consensus, it seems like. So would I give that over, in my opinion, NRG, which, again, full disclosure, I am biased, clearly. But I've been tracking the LCS data, as we know, for all the teams there, but I also threw in NRG. And their growth has been insane. They've won Rocket League World Championships. They've won Overwatch League for the second year in a row. They're crushing Fortnite content in a way that G2 could only dream of doing, which even though I may not watch it, and I know it's not technically an esport, they still, some of their players still do compete. So I would consider within the organization picture, content does have to be included in that in the same way that merch would be included for 100 Thieves. Otherwise, would they even be on the list? So it's kind of hard. It's hard for me to sit here and say, okay, G2 had a worse year than last year. Team Liquid got it last year, which in my opinion kind of makes sense given the strides that they made as an organization, even despite some of the issues that they ran into. An MSI finals for America, pulling off the biggest upset in League of Legends history. I don't even know about their Counter-Strike team, but I know just in general the organization, if I remember correctly, they were doing decently well, pretty consistently all throughout the year. I can't give it to G2. I really can't. Like, I get it's close, and because you're gonna weight League of Legends higher, then that technically gets it. But on the content and growth side, I feel like you have to give it to NRG. But it is close. It's not a 2018 scenario where Cloud9 was just head and shoulders above everybody, like without a doubt. And you could see that this year, but I don't think the London Spitfire I haven't heard anything in the press about them being good for this upcoming year, so I don't know. Their League of Legends team is going to crush, which will be their carrying force, but they also have to do well in other games like Counter-Strike. I don't even know if they're in Valorant. I don't think they are. And whatever other games they're in, obviously Smash now is, God only knows what's going on with Smash, but that's a whole nother argument for another day. To piggyback that though, to transition this to the NRG Castle, which got announced last week, and I haven't had the chance to talk about it because I recorded last week's Thursday episode prior to the announcement, and it didn't really feel like the right topic to bring up on Monday. But the fact that content houses are evolving to this point where it's now just a massive place for people to gather and do content, which I get. Hex is already doing that with the Hex quarters, and it's incredible, and it's amazing. Now, I know this NRG Castle will likely be more geared towards not only Fortnite, but also kind of a different crowd than my own. My viewership habits and tendencies tend to lie more with the kind of rated M crowd, I guess you would say. Like the Optic Chicago style is more up my alley. But it's a great idea in the sense that I feel like this would be a great place to capitalize on TikTok. Like the amount of content that you can create there, the small little one-offs and the various different things that you can do will be pretty much endless. Like, they have every console ever made all in one spot that they can put up on a massive projector. You have like these big bubble things that you can go in that I think every kid has likely drawn for themselves. Like, if you could create your dream gaming room or something like that, like one of those pods was definitely in your dream, like 100%. The only thing that honestly feels like it's missing from that castle is like a ball pit from like Chuck E. Cheese, which flashbacks, but nevertheless, I'm interested to see how it does, because obviously it's not the type of content that I would watch, but I know already, even as an outsider, that what they're going to be able to produce from there is going to be incredible. Now, they said they're going to have some pro teams scrimming there. It didn't really give off that vibe in the same way. Like, put it this way, if NRG gets in the League of Legends and they can, and the team has an option to either play there or have a proper facility. When you compare that to the likes of Team Liquid and their Alienware facility, or you throw in TSM and their $100 million, was it 100 million or 50 million, however much it is, their massive facility, or the 100 Thieves compound, those are the places that I could see myself dedicating practice to. Like, it feels like, not that it's too much of a distraction, but like, you want everything around you to be more competitive than content driven, although the content does come out of it, i.e. 100 Thieves, who have used their compound very, very well. I'm curious to see what happens from the esports perspective, because I don't see that place being everything it's cracked up to be. Content is one thing, esports is another, even though you want to blend the two, and that's what NRG is doing very well. I don't know. I guess we'll see. That I'm up in the air on it. But I do want to do a quick exercise, which the whole Fnatic situation is brought up. So in case people don't know, Fnatic recently announced that they are going to, I guess they did already, they crowdfunded money towards, so basically you become an owner in the same way that the Green Bay Packers have historically done this, where they'll open up they'll open up shares within the company that you can own. You do not have really much of a say of anything other than getting to attend the annual conference. You get special privileges to, I think it is like training camp, and you get exclusive merch or first dibs to it. Like, there's a few perks that you get. It's not really like you're going to receive dividends based on performance of the team and how much money we make, et cetera, et cetera. It's not like that. Would you buy into something like that for any org as a fan? I think the answer is likely yes. If you are committed to it, that's fine. But the hypothetical I want to run is, say these were actually on the stock market. Who would you buy? Who would you sell? Who are your bulls? And who, oh God, I'm forgetting the other ones. The bull and bear? Yeah, the bear, because bears hibernate. So who's in the bull market? Who's in the bear market? The bull market for North America only, I think, is pretty cut and dry. It's 100 Thieves and NRG, two of the fastest growing brands. 100 Thieves just constantly is able to pump out good content. They're making good signings. It's just like, it's one of those that it's like a $600 stock that you would 100% invest in, and you know it's going to return dividends. The amount may vary, but you know it's going to be solid. NRG is like that one that is showing signs really early that it's going to be something special, and you want to grab onto it as soon as you can and just ride the wave. If you want to cash out at any point in its growth, because they're growing very quickly, you can, but it might be worth it to stay for the long haul. Those are my two bulls, 100%. My bears, which, ironic given the announcement today, are first Immortals. I don't see any upside right now. Like, they've sold off the Call of Duty team. They're looking to sell off the Overwatch League spot. The only thing that they're holding on to is League of Legends. And I can't honestly say that I think they'll stick around long enough to profit off of it. Even though the LCS is likely going to be profitable in this upcoming split, the revenue share is not going to be enough for them to stay afloat. And they're not doing enough as an organization to maintain themselves and keep their heads above water. That's just the sad reality of it. I I tried to think of a way for them to get into it. But the issue is I feel like we're at this stage in esports where if your brand is already dead or dying, unless there's something magical behind the scenes, it's toast. So a good example of that would be Immortals having the Optic name. They pretty much killed it. But the special part of that was once you give it back to Hex, that changes the scenario and the optics around it. So obviously, that specific brand can succeed, but I don't see any upside for Immortals. Everything that made them what they were was Noah Winston. So how do you come back from that? Like I don't really think you can. Like there's nothing they can do. They're corporate. Like their capital structure has to be horrendous. And I guarantee there's very few people on the executive board there that have any clue what works well in esports and what doesn't. I don't think I've seen any content come out of them recently at all. It just feels, it feels bad. And the second one that I'll throw in there, and I feel bad for saying this because they had a really good year last year. Well, 2020 in general, in my opinion, is Golden Guardians. The NBA stuff has me worried for them and for a lot of businesses as a whole. People underestimate the economic impact that the NBA operating at a loss will have, especially on a lot of like branches of different companies. You could technically throw CLG onto the list here, but they're doing well with Fortnite and finding a way with content that they kind of give me some hope, despite obviously like being really bad in the LCS and the Dolans arguably running that company as a whole well enough to the point where they're profiting, but not well enough to the point where they'll ever win. With Golden Guardians, I don't see how it's gonna happen. The Golden State Warriors were a very popular team worldwide, and I'm sure that still maintains some weight, but since losing the roster that pretty much cheated the entire game, not cheated in the sense of actually cheating, but it's like picking the 99 level Madden team and winning every time and then saying, hey, yeah, we did great. I can't really see them coming out of this. I think it's one of those that, like, say you have an expense of $1.3 million on the book between player salaries, coaching, facility rentals, which that people underestimate how expensive that probably is alone. I can't imagine that they're going to want to keep that expense on the book. I mean, is it so small that you possibly eat the cost going forward? I would say yes. But I'm biased towards League of Legends. If I'm not biased towards League of Legends, I'm arguing that, yeah, what are we doing in this if it's not going to see a profit for 5 to 6 years? We need to, we need to stop the bleeding now while we can. And I don't really know. I don't know how else you get around that. So I'm not saying they're a guaranteed sell, but I would definitely be bearish on them. I would latch down the hatches. If you're looking to get out, get out. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm hoping for the best, but we'll see. Who knows? Transitioning that, kind of back to content, but in a similar way. So this is just a random side note before the final two topics. I'm still very bullish on YouTube as a whole. It feels like the ongoing battle between YouTube, Twitch, and I'd even throw TikTok in there temporarily, is an interesting one, where you do not have the discoverability on YouTube or Twitch that you once had because it's so saturated. And there's nothing you can do about that. There's just too many creators on the market. So even taking somebody like me, it's going to be really hard, if not next to impossible, for me to distinguish myself from many different gaming podcasts that are out there. I'm not dumb. I know that exists. I know that's a thing. But TikTok offers that discoverability still, even though it's 2 to 3 years old now? I think 2. I don't know. Nevertheless, you can still get discovered due to what I'm guessing is probably arguably the best algorithm in social media that they have. And it's like, I can post a random video on there, go viral for 1,700 views, and even though that's small, that increases your base just a little bit. You would go from 100 views a TikTok to, 400 or 500 if you stay on topic and maintain a relevant following. And the question I think was posed by Blake on Twitter, the 100 Thieves investor, of which do you think is the biggest problem? Profit or monetization, discoverability, or there was one other option. And it's like, discoverability has to be number one, especially if you're a small creator. If you're a big creator, then yeah, obviously monetization and finding external ways to make money as well is going to be number one priority. But as a small creator, getting discovered is everything. So what are you doing that's setting you apart from everybody else? I think that's a question that a lot of people struggle with, including myself, of how many new things do you try? How many new things fail? And how do you keep going from there with an idea, unless you're just having fun with it, which for me is exactly this. The chance to sit here and talk for 20 some minutes a day, or even for, podcasts with other people for an hour or two, is just a blessing. Like, I will always cherish the chance to get to have these conversations with people that are absolutely incredible. So, last two things that I'll go into for today. First is a real quick note on the Overwatch League. For the upcoming season, they basically announced they're going to maintain the tournament formats, which makes me happy. I wish more people would embrace the tournament side of things. I think a proper league is great for some areas, but I think when you even see games like League of Legends and the LCS say, hey, we need more tournaments, that's when you know that realistically Call of Duty had it right all along. Not necessarily the circuit format, but at least some sort of format that allows you to have these peaks every weekend. It's not just like a one-off game where it's like, oh, we're waiting for TSM and Cloud9 to play again. That'll happen in week 8. Until then, enjoy everything else. It's when you get that enough and you get to experience that dopamine rush of seeing those teams play, like, say, once a month, 12 times a year is phenomenal. That's the right balance without really overdoing it. So long as you can build the storylines, somebody's not dominating every time. It just feels like that's the way to go. And I'm really happy to see Overwatch going forward on that. Hopefully they bounce back with viewership. I don't know how that's going to happen, but we'll see. The final thing I wanted to talk about was two golf-related things. First is something that I had, and second is a question I got from Twitter. So first is actually a comment responding to somebody on TikTok who asked me about professional golf management. And my response to that, for those that don't know, professional golf management is basically a program where you go in and you get your A-class certification to be a PGA teaching pro, not necessarily a tour pro. Some people don't know that there's like 24 or even more different levels of PGA status. But would I recommend PGM to anybody and everybody? First, I would recommend my undergraduate university at Methodist University to anybody. I wouldn't be where I am today without them, regardless of PGM or not. For the golf part of it specifically, I think the issue that you have a lot of people running into whenever they do sign up for PGM is they want to pigeonhole themselves and say, I want to continue to be in the golf industry, but I'm not good enough to play at a D1 level. I feel like that's a lot of people's thoughts. That is, in my opinion, shown by the fact that your dropout percentage is incredibly high for PGM. My class started with, I think, like 61 or 62, and we graduated with like 28 or just under 30, something like that. It's not for everybody. Even I'm not in the industry anymore. I got out despite being able to be a PGA pro if I were to work at a golf course. I'm not there anymore. I got out and I arguably enjoyed life a little bit more because golf is no longer that focal point. I think the important thing to know going into PGM is if that is truly what you want to do, if you see yourself teaching every day, because the reality is even as a head pro, teaching is still that main pathway. Or Methodist has gone through a few changes to make sure that they're getting people more general business degrees, but those connections are a lot harder to get. Fewer people are doing internships at Titleist and Callaway than they necessarily are with, Marion, Oakmont, everywhere else, where you're just one of 8 assistant professionals or interns. That's a difficult line to balance. And if you feel like that's best for you, then do it. If it's not, you can also still leverage it. I did. I'm not in the industry, but I finished it out. I leveraged it. It got me quite a few places, and golf will lead you to some incredible conversations. Don't shy away from that. But again, just keep your options open. That's the biggest thing that I would recommend. Don't go into any situation closing your mind off to anything unless you want to specialize, to which I would say specialize early and push it hard. Like, it's the two extremes. You don't want to be somewhere in the middle, because very rarely does that ever, not that it doesn't work out, but I feel like generally speaking, the people that succeed the most are on the two extremes. The ones that keep themselves completely open, and the ones that really specialize early on. Finally, last thing I want to discuss today is a question that the Mickey Finn brought up on Twitter. The marvelous Mickey Finn. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the question. He asked, if you could magically improve one of the following, which would it be? Driving, irons, chipping, or putting? Now, I know a lot of other people would have different answers to this, but mine is very specific, and it's irons without question. I can drive a ball decently well. Maybe not far, but I can drive it consistently. Chipping, I'm not going to say I'm phenomenal. I can't spin the ball that great, but I can hit a decent flop shot. My short game's not bad. Putting, I have faith in my putting. I have never in my life, barring like 2 or 3 rounds, felt like I could hit a pure iron every single time. And that bugs me as a field player. Like, I know whenever I'm not compressing the ball properly, and it bugs the crap out of me. And also, I feel like if I could be a lot more consistent with my irons and get them on or near the green, and I don't know if that's bad course management for myself, which partially is, I somewhat know that, or if it's just me lacking the skill to be able to compress the ball and put it in and flight it down enough to the point where I'm going to consistently hit greens every time. Not every time, but my goal has always been 10 fairways, 10 greens, 30 putts, and you're guaranteed to be in the 70s 90% of the time. I've never hit 10, 10, 30 before. I've gotten close to it. I've hit more fairways than 10. I've hit less, but I don't think I've ever gotten close to 10 greens, and that's always kind of bugged me about my game. So I don't know. I would definitely pick that. I feel like if I was a better iron player, I could be a scratch golfer without question, because I'm already a 3 handicap now. But with decent irons and being able to flight the ball a little bit better, control it with irons, I think I could realistically be a scratch golfer. But that's just me. Anyways, I've been going on long enough. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to try and see if I can get a special guest for Monday. Not 100% sure if I'll be able to, but keep an eye on Twitter at @DShynock, and I'll keep you posted on what I find and what's going on. Otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in. Please be sure to follow the channel, leave a like. We are 1 subscriber away from 15, which I really want to hit sometime before the end of this month. So fingers crossed. Let's hope for the best. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.